Hello everyone. How you doing? It is Friday, January 12th. Kris, why aren't you? It's 9:15 in the morning. Kris, why aren't you at work? Well, snow. A lot of it. Wednesday it snowed. And it was really it was wet snow, so it was kind of damp and a lot of ice. No problem. It took me a while, but I was able to get in. We went to work. And then this morning, I was told it was just going to be 2.5 inches of snow. I woke up and I had 5, and it wasn't done. Took off. We were going in early. I took off, and after 40 minutes on the road and about 2.5 miles out of town, it was blowing. Couldn't see the road, and I was the only car on there. And of course, when you turn on the brights, all you see is more snow just blowing across the road. And I said, nope, not doing it, not worth it. Turned around, talked to everybody, and we decided to wait. That was like 5:30 in the morning. I left at 5:10, and at 5:40, I knew I wasn't going to make it. So we decided to wait until 9, and at 8:10 I took off. And almost went off the. It stopped snowing, still blowing, but now it's raining. It's up to like 33 or 34, so it's not snowing, and now it's rain. So everything that's on, and the plows aren't out because they were waiting for everything to stop. So every time it started building up, getting slushy, they were plowing, and now it's just down to the road and a little bit of ice and slush. And I hit a patch and just started sliding off the road, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this. So I thought, well, what am I going to do today? Well, I can make some videos, because otherwise I'm just watching TV and doing nothing until tomorrow when I would make videos. So why not do something today? I can enjoy my weekend. Football, baby. Lions are in the playoffs. Of course, they may not be anymore when this video comes out, because they may have lost. So get your coffee or tea. I like this for my creamer and my coffee. I don't like cream. Yeah, I'm just on. This is a tangent time apparently. I like cream in my coffee, and I use fake sugar. But I don't like cream in my tea. I like the taste of tea. Coffee's just a little more bitter. I think it just goes better with a little bit of creamer. Made some coffee. Put it in this. See if it does it. Oh, it's not going to do it now. It's not pressurized. I did it earlier, and it went poof. It's great. A little puff of steam came out. Oh, it's great. I should shake it up. What am I talking about? Oh, yeah. This was a donator request. That's what I was going to say. Let me find you, bud, because you did donate, so you deserve to, even though your name would be shouted out in that. Let's see. Let's go to Super Thanks. Apply. Oh, nope. Got to click on that. Oscar K. Jelson. You donated about an hour ago. And you told me I had to make sure to do this next part as well, probably the funniest one. And I responded, I was going to do it anyways. So, thank you. More incentive to just get it done. So, I was looking at this, and I'm going to break this down about every 15 minutes because they span a little bit further than I'd like. So, this might end up being a 5-parter, which is fine. It is what it is. So get your coffee or get your tea, get your creamer or don't, get your fake sugar, real sugar or don't, and let's just get into the video. This is when I have to hit that button. Forgot all about that part. Okay.
Wild West, Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider. No, you don't want nada.
Round 3.
West.
And then again, and then again, and then again.
Here we go. Now this is either we'll decide later. You're either on the Patreon or this is free on YouTube.
Okay.
Whatever. We left off at LBJ.
So LBJ. First of all, there's an interesting tie-in, a person that ties together JFK, LBJ, and Nixon.
Is it my mother's cunt?
It's your mother's cunt.
Is it really?
No, it really wasn't.
Oh, God damn it.
No, there are some parts of history your mother's cunt did not figure into. There's only a few. But the person who's sort of that combines these three figures in an interesting way is Jackie O. Because, first of all, obviously she's connected to JFK because he fucked her.
Yeah.
But there's great, first of all, and I've been to like every presidential library, not every, I've been to a lot. And Nixon's has this really weird artifact. They always have these artifacts, like the actual written. So there's these notes. It's a letter written by Jackie O to Nixon right after JFK was shot. Like it's one of the first things she did. And it's like on hotel stationery. And it's just in her hand, and it's like many pieces, like little notepad pieces. She sat down and wrote a letter to Richard Nixon, because the thing with all these families is they all hung out together. So even if they were political enemies, like if Kennedy and Nixon are debating, Pat Nixon and what's her name and Jackie hung out. They were all their families traveled together.
Pat.
What's that?
His wife's name was Pat.
Patricia Nixon. Yeah.
Was she cute?
You know what's great? You hear all of the politicians bashing each other, right? But then you find out, like, oh yeah, they bashed each other, and then they went to dinner. Ronald Reagan's book, he wrote it himself. I don't remember the name of it now. He wrote it before he died, by the way, just in case you're curious. Was one of the most entertaining books I've ever read. I don't agree with everything Reagan did. Reagan was an Illinois guy, so clearly he was one of the best. But don't agree with everything that he did. But the one thing you cannot deny about him, he could tell a story. The man could spin a yarn, as they say. But it's a very entertaining story. Why did I bring that up? Oh, in Reagan, that's why I brought it up. In Reagan's book, he talks about being, I'll say insulted, but he wasn't. It was politics. The Democratic Speaker of the House just lambasted him. Reagan, he's not good for this. He can't do that. He's not a good president. Blah, 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 blah. And then, like, immediately after he gave this press conference, turned around and called Reagan and was like, what'd you think? And Reagan's like, well, didn't appreciate it. And he's like, yeah, but it was really good, wasn't it? I'll see you tonight for dinner. And then they went out to dinner. Like, a lot of the things that you see, and I can't say politics around the world, but American politics, some politicians just truly hate each other. Like some people on the planet, they just hate each other for whatever reason. You just meet somebody, it's just a feeling, just a vibe. You just don't like them. And then there's political hatred, where I hate that person. But I'm sure they've attended a dinner with them in a week. Their wives have communicated. It's a lot of it is just political things. And what's sad is that is behind the curtain. So the people, and I've learned not to believe any of that this guy's garbage, he stinks, because I can guarantee you that guy, they were shaking hands and probably, in the hallway of Congress, and probably sat down and worked on a bill together. So a lot of things that you hear, you got to know probably isn't real. But a lot of people don't understand that. They hear somebody's bashing somebody else, and they just feel like, yeah, that's my guy, so screw him. I don't like that guy. And it's like, dude, you're just falling for it. You're doing what those politicians want you to do. Even your own politician who you're siding with, like, yes, I hate that guy. If I see that guy in public, I'm going to throw a handful of dirt at his face. And the politician who told you how terrible and worthless he is probably had dinner with him. Probably had a great chat on the phone, laughing about a fishing trip. Like, the things that we don't see should be more telling than what we're told. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I also wanted to say a side story, and for any of the American audience, you're already going to know this. But LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, whether you agree with his politics or not, you know, whether he's your party or not, I don't know enough about him to really judge a lot of things. Some things were good, some things were bad. I know he forced some policies through, which is a big reason a lot of Southern Democrats didn't want. Once he did that, they were pretty much like, we'll help you pass things, then we're severing ties with you. And a lot of Southern Democrats ended up becoming Republicans because of things that he kind of forced down their throat. But that's not what I'm saying. What I am going to say is LBJ loved to be a dominant man, an alpha male. And one of the things that he did is he would have his staff in there. Now, there is a woman, you'll see her, she's a one of the political talking heads. She wrote the book Team of Rivals. Give me a second, because I'm going to look it up for you. Team of Rivals author.
Doris Kearns Goodwin wrote Team of Rivals.
Doris Kearns Goodwin. Now, she worked in LBJ's cabinet, so she told a lot of stories. She waited, I think, until after he died before she told some of these stories. But one of the stories she told was to show you how manly he was. He would bring everyone into the Oval Office, his office, for a meeting. He would then walk into the bathroom, drop his pants, and start taking a shit, and had all of them pile in while he would dictate notes to them while he was shitting. Dude, what kind of power move is that? I wouldn't want to do that, nor would I want to be in the room while somebody's trying to tell me something. You're just like, yeah, no, I totally get it. You're right. Oh, I breathe it in. I could smell it. I could smell it. It smells like sardines. I could smell it. You know, that'd be terrible. Another thing is, I read a book from some Secret Service agents, and a lot of these agents went on to be anonymous when they turned in the stuff for this book. The next video, I'll list that book. I'll tell you what the book was. But the presidents went. Just a side note, just so people don't think like I'm trying to bash. A lot of those Secret Service agents hated Hillary Clinton. I lean more Democrat. Bill Clinton a Democrat. Hillary Clinton Democrat. They hated her. She apparently was not a nice person. Not a nice woman. Just throw the gender aside. Person to person as a human being, apparently, she was god-awful. Did not want you to look her in the eyes. You did not address her. Bill Clinton, on the other hand, was like, hey, how's everybody doing? Hey, congratulations. Oh, it's nice to meet you. She was just like, I will murder everyone who looks me in the eyes. She didn't actually say that, but you get the point. That's that vibe. But one of these Secret Service agents who was watching LBJ, he... Sorry. Okay, I had to move this cord out of my way. He went to Camp David, which is where the presidents kind of, I'll say, vacation. When they don't go home, they go to Camp David. And Camp David, by the way, is named after Dwight Eisenhower's grandson, I believe. His name would be David. So, so it's like a cabin-looking thing. LBJ walked out onto this porch, and Secret Service agents are out there, and he just walks out and looks at one of the guys, and he's like, so how you doing? The guy's like, yeah, pretty good. And this guy was off the porch, like I think on the ground outside of like the shrubs. And the guy like looks back and he's like, "Oh, hello, Mr. President." And he's just like, "Yeah, how you doing?" LBJ walks down the steps, turns, and he's talking to the guy. And the guy's standing facing, like, this is the face. He's looking that way. And LBJ's here looking this way. He just unzips, pulls out the old, apparently, he should be proud of himself. The guy had a baby anaconda. And he just pulled it out and started peeing just like a foot in front of the Secret Service agent's feet. The guy's getting pee splatters on his nice loafers. And LBJ's just looking at him in the eyes as he's peeing, going, "Yeah, how you been? Everything good?" Gets done, gives it a shake, puts it away, and is just like, "All right, have a good day," and just walked away. Like, some people are like, "Dude, that's a power play," and I'm like, "That's a dick move." I don't care who you are, you don't do that. But I'm getting away. I'm taking over the video. I apologize. I know some people go, "Stop apologizing," but I apologize for always apologizing.
I mean, I don't.
Would you fuck her?
Ladies back then. Ladies.
Yeah.
She was a lady,
Yeah.
with the hair.
Yeah. It just sucks. He's, the other cool guy has.
He was
Jackie.
he was desperately in love with her.
He's got Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really loved her very much, Patricia. The story about her that I love is that Nixon, she was a librarian. There's a lot of stories about presidents that have this in their history. He went to the library and there was this beautiful Patricia, young librarian, and he would go in there and talk to her. Been looking for the, Boswell's history biography of
How to Live with a Huge Cock.
Yes. Yes, I just don't know how to do it. And one day he went in there and he said, "I just came to tell you that someday I'm going to marry you."
Oh, man.
And Patricia said, "No, you're not.
Yeah.
I have a boyfriend." He goes, "Okay, who's this boyfriend?" She goes, "He lives in this town over, And he goes, how are you getting there? Are you going on a date?" She goes, "Yeah, I have a date with him tonight." She goes, "Well, how are you getting there?" She goes, "I'm taking a bus." He goes, "No, I'll drive. That's unsafe." So he would drive her to her dates.
Whoa.
And he would look after her. He's like, "You're going to marry me someday." And so he just sort of was her friend and he looked after her and then he wore her down. Same thing with Truman and Bessie. Bessie, he wrote long letters to that we have now. And in one of the letters he wrote and said, "I want to marry you."
Yeah.
And she wrote back and said, "Geez, Harry, I'm just don't
Yeah.
love you. I like you that way." And he wrote back and he said, "I just want to thank you for not making fun of me when I asked you. So let's please remain friends." And they were friends for years.
And then
finally
he started
she
killing
was like, and she started looking at herself in the mirror and going, "I'm not getting any younger."
Yeah.
And this dude might be something. So
This
I don't
guy.
I don't know what went into it.
We were just looking at a guy. I was watching a thing on presidents before we left, and it is a theme where they try to get with a lady, and they're like, "No," and then they're like, "I'm just gonna be the fucking
I'm
president.
going to be the best guy ever.
Yeah, it's what happened in. When you saw the movie Vice? It's my favorite part of the movie with Cheney. He
we'll get to them. But
getting
I
a
met
DUI,
his wife.
getting a DUI and getting a fight.
He was
and
a
then,
fuck up.
And then she's like, "You're a loser. I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave you." And he's like, "I'll become the greatest man of
Yeah.
all time."
Well, she made him that. She
Yeah.
made him that. But I'll get to that because I met that lady. So
Wait, what was the story of the letter Jackie sent?
I want to pause before he gets into the letter. He was talking about Nixon. There's a Nixon from that Secret Service book that I read. They talk about Nixon. They didn't seem to have any bad thoughts of Nixon. He seemed to be fine, but his relationship with his wife in front of them was kind of it was a little cold, and I don't mean he was mean or I don't mean she was mean. It was like they didn't know how or didn't feel comfortable with all these people around because Secret Service are in your life, and in a way holding hands, back then was, this is your gal. Hugging and stuff like that wasn't necessarily something that you did in public. Maybe not for a married couple or whatever. I don't know. I wasn't there. But this Secret Service agent said that they were not somebody who really showed a lot of affection in front of other people. Not saying they didn't love each other. They were just uncomfortable with showing. It could have been used against him, like, oh, look at him hugging his wife in public. He's a sissy. He's a little sissy boy, and stuff like that. That would have been used against him. Oh, he hugged his wife in public. Shame, just stupid stuff that we'd look at now and be like, really? They said that? Okay, seems weird, but okay. One of these Secret Service agents said they were. I don't remember where they were. I'll say they were at the White House. I don't remember where. And they had to get him maybe to the airport. He had to be somewhere, and he kind of had to be there fast. And he was really slow. He was, I guess, normally like a prompt guy, but he was really kind of slowly getting ready and to leave. And they said, this one Secret Service agent said, he was standing by the door waiting to open it, and Nixon came out of the door, and then his wife came out, and she stood at the doorway. And he looked at the guys and gave them a little, and they were like, okay, clock's ticking. He's the president. We can't leave without him. But, we do have a schedule, however you like to say it. He turns and he says something to her, and she kind of smiles, and she puts her hands out, and he puts his hands underneath, and like their fingers are holding like that, and they're talking to each other, and they're kind of really, it's very quiet, and she's smiling, he's smiling, and he's leaning in to kind of give her a kiss, maybe a kiss on the lips, cheek, forehead, whatever. And they said the Secret Service agent said it was a very tender moment. It was something that you didn't see. And so all of the agents were looking like, oh my goodness, this is the first time we've seen that side of him, that very, I don't want to say human, but that very passionate, that very, loving side of him, because they had always seen what he had wanted them to see. And this was a moment where I think he kind of let his guard down and was just in front of his wife, and all these other people didn't matter. As far as he was concerned, the only people looking at Nixon was his wife, and the only one looking at his wife was Nixon. The Secret Service agent driving this limo, for whatever reason, turned to look back to see, what the holdup was, and his elbow hit the horn. It just beep, and he kind of like that, and those two shook and instantly let go, and they got distance, and they looked over, and he kind of went, I'll see you later, Mrs. Nixon. And she was like, you too, Mr. President. And he turned around and he walked off, and they said that moment was interrupted by an accidental car horn. And they said you instantly saw the guard go right back up. And the Secret Service agent said later on to Nixon, we could have waited if you wanted to hug your wife. And he instantly cut him off. He's like, no man has time for that. And it's when you hear that story, it's sad, because like in those moments, if a car horn goes nowadays, we would look back like, what? No, come on now. The car's waiting for me. So when I'm ready, I'm ready. And you kiss your wife or you kiss your husband, whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, that moment affected him. And they said it was every time they were back around, they were husband and wife. Sorry, my nose is itching. They were husband and wife, but it was almost like they were just partners that happened to be husband and wife. Like it was a sad thing, but I don't know.
Jackie, when John was dead and she still got his blood on her pink dress, she didn't want to take it off. It was a nice fucking dress. She's like, I'm not going to wear this for one fucking day. She kept it on. And the thing that she had his brains in her hand, and she walked up to somebody in the operating room and said, does anybody need this for anything?
It's like an IKEA.
She had the
set.
president's brain in her.
Yeah.
And she was
It's
like,
I found this screw on the ground.
Yeah,
we might have missed some.
and they're like, oh,
Just so people know, when the assassination happened, and I think it's the second shot where Kennedy's head really lurches, and you see like just a poof, and you see her turning. And if you've ever if you've ever seen the assassination video, which it's I'm not comfortable watching it. I don't like watching anything where somebody dies. I don't even like watching things where animals die. But she's crawling on the back of the limo reaching for something, and there's an agent that's running up, and the agent in question was her personal Secret Service agent, and I don't remember his name. He wrote a book, Me and Jackie? I don't remember. Clint something. But in that book, it's a great book. You can tell he really loved her. Like if she said, I'm leaving the president and I want to marry you, he'd have been like, yep, okay, let's do it. He really loved her. He cared for her. He protected her. But after the assassination, the relation, she I think, she didn't have the same feelings, clearly. But anyways, in his book, Clint, I'll mention that in the next one too. You see her crawling on the back of the trunk, and some people are like, oh, she's trying to get away. She's, that guy Clint jumps on the back of the limo. He's the guy when they're speeding off, he's hanging onto the back of the limo. He says, I'm telling her to get back in the seat. Get back in the seat, you're going to fall down. And she was reaching for a chunk of his skull. Just think about that. You're reaching for your husband's skull fragments and brain. Like, whether you didn't like him, whether you did, whether you whatever, she didn't have anything to do with anything that he did, and she had to witness her husband being assassinated. Just like Mary Lincoln. She's sitting right next to Abraham when he's assassinated. She cried so much they had to kick her out of the room. She wasn't even in the room when he died. They had to come and tell her because she was breaking down so much. All the people are in there trying to think, how can we save him? How can we save him? And she is just on her knees crying, and they were like, get her out of here. And it's like, I understand why they said get her out of here, but that's the president's wife. Unless there's a doctor performing a surgery, then everyone should be out of that room. But like, to kick her out of the room, and she wasn't even there when he died. They had to come and get her. I don't know if she wanted to be, but I would surely believe that she would want to be there holding her husband's hand, just like you'd want to be there holding your wife's hand, or whatever. Yeah, sad stories.
that isn't. She's like, is that important? They're like, yeah, it's pretty important.
That's his.
And they're like, she's like, you want to put it back in? They're like, no, you go ahead and eat it. And she ate his brain. It's true. It's true. You ever seen the autopsy photos? In the background, you can see her.
You can see Jackie stuffing one down.
Sweetmeats, whatever you call it. So she wrote. It just reminds me, and this isn't presidential, but this is one of the funniest things that Nick DiPaolo ever said to me. I know I made fun of him in the last one, so I want to praise him. I love the guy. It's like my brother. We used to live together. And I was telling him about this thing that I had heard about. The thing about Nick DiPaolo is that you tell him about something and he finds the joke. So the thing I told him about was that there's somewhere in Asia, they love monkey brains. And the best way to enjoy monkey brains is when they're still alive. So there's these tables with little like skull-shaped holes in them.
Yeah.
And they put the monkey up there and they cut the top of it and you just cut it open and you eat it with a little stylish fork. And I said this to Nick, and he pretended to be one of those guys. He's like, I'm sending mine back. It's retarded. Like, that would make it taste bad. This one's retarded. I want my money back. Okay, so LBJ. So Jack's dead. And Jackie writes Nixon.
Yeah.
And she says, listen, I know that you're going to charge ahead and try to be president. Like, I'm thinking about you right now. With my husband dead, you're the first person I thought of, you and Pat and your family. And I think about what we've all sacrificed of ourselves in order to achieve these great historical moments and in order to be president. And I lost my husband to this. This killed him. And I don't want this to happen to you. You're a good man. You've got a good family. And I'm just saying, this is me saying now, cool it and take what you've got and retire and be a family man, because it's going to kill you too.
Yeah.
She wrote this to him.
Wow.
Great moment.
Wow.
Now, there's another thing. When LBJ was president, he was very much in love with Jackie. Everyone loved Jackie.
Yeah.
So LBJ loved Jackie, and there's a tape you can hear of him calling Jackie in the middle from the White House, drunk, in the middle of the night. You hear her like, hello? And he's like, Jackie, Jackie, God damn it, I love you, Jackie. And you hear her go, Mr. President?
Oh, what a betrayal, dude.
It's just beautiful.
What the
It's
fuck?
just beautiful. Jackie, I don't know what to do anymore.
Just a side note, if anybody's ever seen, for the people who don't know, if you've ever seen LBJ's swearing in, he's swearing in and Jackie's next to him, and she's in that dress. It's right after the assassination. They did that in the plane heading back to Washington from Dallas. Now, why do I bring it up? LBJ, they were like, okay, look, you're going to be the president. President's dead. We can't bring that back together. So we're going to fly his body in you back to Washington. Casket will go here, and then we'll swear you in. And he goes, so basically we're flying with me as active president, but I'm not president. And they were like, yeah, but we're gonna get it sorted out. And he's like, great, sounds good. Well, just go ahead and make me president now before we leave. And they're like, well, we're going to. And he's like, this plane will not leave. If I'm acting president, in name, everyone knows this plane doesn't leave until I'm sworn in. So on the plane with Jackie Kennedy, Kennedy's body in the back of the plane in a coffin, he held up the flight until he was sworn in so he could fly back to Washington, D.C. as the president. Now, some people think that was a dick move. I look at it like, it wasn't like there was an emergency surgery planned in Washington to save his life, to save Kennedy's life. Kennedy was gone. LBJ was going to be the president. I understand he's going to be sworn in. I think that it's probably smarter to just go to... Everyone knows you're the president. Just go to Washington. Let Jackie go over here and do the grieving. You don't need her in this moment. Like, she's got enough going on. And you can see it. She's just like... She's gone. Mentally, as you would be. She's gone. Why don't we take care of this without her present? She doesn't need to be here for any of this. So I thought that was kind of a... But again, as I said, LBJ liked to make his staff take notes while he took a shit in front of him. So that's another power move. LBJ was that guy.
Mr. President. She's like, in a nice nightgown. Anyway.
Did you ever watch that movie recently with...
I couldn't, as soon as I heard her doing the accent, I'm like, it's just too much.
See, I never heard Jackie.
I don't like biopics. I don't like it
really
so much. Yeah, not usually.
I'm trying
but
to
anyway,
think. Yeah.
LBJ was I told you this story last time after we stopped, but the two stories I also read and saw in his library. One was that a Mexican woman who lived in his home district in Texas, her husband died. He was killed in World War II, killed in action, and his coffin was sent back to her hometown. and nobody would bury it because he's Mexican. None of the undertakers, none of the cemeteries would take his body because they're only white people. And so she wrote to LBJ, who was at the time her senator, and she said, "Is there anything you can do? I can't bury my war hero husband. You know, he's just a regular fucking corporal who got shot.
Yeah.
You know." And so they have this letter, and then you see his reply. He says, "I'm really sorry to inform you that I can't force those people to do something they don't want to do, and I know it's not enough, but all I can do is bury your husband in Arlington Cemetery with full honors." So that guy's in Arlington. So that's the kind of guy,
cool.
and that's a quiet story of his. You know what I mean? This is he was a principled guy. He was a fucked up guy. He was weird, but that's something he did. And
was he? I asked you this before, I think, but was he like? Because he got the civil rights thing going, right?
Yeah, he did. He
did
passed
the civil
everything.
rights bill.
He used JFK's death to pass everything on civil rights. It was always his intention. He was a integrationist guy. He was a guy who wanted an integration. He lived in Texas, and he was a Southern Democrat.
Yeah.
So he was pragmatic about it.
Was he a big guy? He was big, right?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, he was
I don't know why I
stalking.
think of him as big.
He was a farm guy. He was a real fucking country guy, and he did stuff like he had these dogs. And he would lift his dogs by the ears and show the press, "Look at my dogs." And everybody's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Don't do that.
I guess that's my dog.
Dude, is there anything more unsettling when someone grips their dog up like that?
Yeah,
Like
I've never
by the
even
back
heard
the-
of that.
Well, just even
Back of
grabbing
the
it by the
neck,
back
one,
of the neck.
but
like,
by the ear. He was like a hound, and he held him by the ear. "Look at my dog."
One of the things that he used to do, he'd go back to Texas for his ranch. And so when you become president, you can't drive, clearly. But one thing you may not know is you can't drive ever again. Anywhere you want to go, Secret Service drives you. I'm surprised they don't cut your steaks for you. But you can't drive. So, a lot of the presidents, LBJ, George W. Bush, they will have, big ranches and stuff like that they'll go back to. You can drive on your property. So they'll make like little roads, trails, stuff like that, and they'll drive around all over there, but you can't leave the property. But LBJ, what he did, his ranch had a big lake. And again, some people might know where this is going. He would drive his car, he'd get in, convertible, drop it down, speed all over the place, have like a reporter or two with him, speed all over the place, fishtail, and then he would say, "You know what? I'm tired of this." And he would drive towards that lake full speed. And people in the car are like, "Sir, sir, 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 sir." And bam, you hit the water, and all of a sudden you don't sink. You just keep going. His car was set up to be also a boat. Yeah. That was one of his joys, was to put somebody in the car that didn't know it and drive around, fishtail, and then drive. He would just basically be like, "I'm done with this life. I'm ending it now, and you're coming with me." And then just drive into the lake. And then just and people were like, "Ah! Why aren't we underwater?" That's a boat. And then once they found out, ha ha ha, and then they'd go back and other people were laughing. "Did it get you too?" "Ah, you got me last week." And that was a little side joy that he liked to do.
Dude, when it's not a puppy and someone grabs it by the back of the neck,
Oh, yeah.
it's like, dude, stop.
And also, he used to make a lot of his phone calls on the toilet, and he would have meetings on the toilet. Like he made a lot of big decisions sitting on the toilet. And they'd talk to him, "Mr. President, what do you want to do about Korea?" And he's like, "I don't give a goddamn," or whatever, and so Vietnam and all that stuff. And the thing about LBJ that to me is like an important thing is that he was an empathetic president. In other words, he felt when other people felt. Okay, this is my problem with some other presidents, is that they don't have that. They don't actually. There is a famous photograph you can find of him where one of his, I think it was his son-in-law, I think it was Chuck Todd, was who ended up being a senator from Virginia. Turned into a real douche later, but he sent a tape of, he was a lieutenant in the army in Vietnam, and lieutenants were just like having to take platoons out and just get them all massacred. So he just sent a reel-to-reel tape to his father-in-law, the president, describing a bloody day in Vietnam and how many guys he lost and how bad it was. And there's a photograph of LBJ listening to this tape, and he's just got his glasses off and he's just sobbing because he knows that he's in charge of this. Yes.
To some
kept
extent.
it going. He still thought it was right, or he couldn't undo it. I don't know.
I think
But it made him feel
that's
a
the
lot.
conspiracies, though.
Well, my uncle is very retired. He's in his 80s, but he was a commander in the Navy, and he was a CB, an instruction battalion. He was an engineer, and they went to Vietnam early when we were still. It was called we were just sending advisors, and so he was sent there to build for them, and he got a bunch. He went around to his Navy friends and talked them into going to Vietnam for this venture. It was not a war yet. And then it turned into a war under his feet. And all the fucking guys he brought over there got killed. And then he came back to the States and had to tell all their, apologize to their families. So like, there's a lot of guys who are like in those command positions who just, they're in a war. You know?
But
so that was, so LBJ.
I also think that a lot of times a president will make I don't want to say a rash decision, but they'll make a gut decision like, this is wrong and I got to do something. And then you get Korea, right? Or Vietnam, whatever. Then you hear like something like that where he's got his glass, and I've seen that picture. I didn't quite understand what the context of the whole thing was, but I've seen it where he's like this, and in his heart, he's probably feeling like he wants to cry. People are dying. But you've already made that first step. And a lot of times, unfortunately, you can't stop after that first step and say, wait, what am I doing? No. You can't then back up. Because now the politics steps in and they're like, see, he knows he messed up. He knows it was a bad decision. And now we've lost people. Blah, 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 blah. And so now that person who stepped back now has to take 2 steps forward to show, and that's, and it comes down to politics can't accept. Like, nobody in politics goes, you know what? I was wrong. That's my fault. Which is what an adult should do. Instead, they just double down and yep, that person's wrong. Yeah, I may have robbed a bank, but was it illegal in that county? No. That state said that bank robbing between 10:30 a.m. and noon is perfectly legal. What? Yeah, that's what they said. Like, the ability to just pause and say, you know what? I made a bad step. I made a bad decision. Because that bad decision has 100,000 military personnel, endless ships, subs, planes, all going in one direction. And so it's like, well, we've already committed, so we might as well just do the war. Like, the ability to just say, you know what, I was wrong, is no longer, it's weakness now. And it's like, it's not weakness. If you get in a conversation with somebody and you have a knife, like you pull a knife and you just, here, let me get my hand away, where you're like, and you have that moment where you realize, I could be spending the rest of my life in jail. No, you know what? It didn't deserve that. No. But in politics, it's like this. Oh, were you weak? Huh? You coward? You see what he did? So in politics, you have to go, huh? Sorry. And now it's okay. Now you can go, I think we've all learned from this, so it's time to move on. And it's like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? This has probably been an hour because I won't shut up. So I'll end it at the, Bobby Kennedy, Sirhan. Did they get into that here? Bobby Kennedy was not a president, but okay, Nixon gay news. We'll end it after the LBJ.
Jay ran, so he took over for Jack, and then he ran in 64.
Yeah, I believe he did.
And he beat who? These are the guys I don't know who LBJ's vice president was.
I think he might have lost to Nixon his first.
No, he only ran once for president in 64. And technically,
yeah, he served from 63 to 69.
Yeah, so 64, who did he beat? Who was the Democrat? Who was the Republican nominee? Because Nixon sat it out. Nixon didn't run this time.
Goldwater.
Barry Goldwater.
Barry Goldwater.
Okay. So, but then
that was a good trivia thing to me because I didn't. But Gary Goldwater, not his brother, was. I just lost my train of thought. A lot of people liked him. I do remember that. Sorry. I'm not adding anything, but I forgot all about that. So I remembered I learned it.
And when it got to be 68, this is another. He did tough things, LBJ. Like he took it on the chin.
I mean, Vietnam and civil rights are two of the biggest. I mean, it's
huge conflicts.
Yeah.
And then he did something that no president has. I don't think. I mean, some presidents maybe have done, but the way he did it was very dramatic. Which was that in 68, he just knew he didn't have the confidence of the people anymore. He knew that he had to face, it was a very Nixonian moment. He had to face that he had lost the confidence of the people and that he wasn't popular anymore and everything was fucked. And so he made this speech where he said, I will not seek nor will I accept my party's nomination for a second term as president. Like he declared, I'm not running a second time. That's fucking rare.
Yeah.
That's rare. Most guys just do it because you're supposed to. When I worked at Conan's show early, I was a writer for Conan the first 2 years. We did one bit that I love. It was my favorite bit we ever did. It was just new inventions. It was just weird inventions. So one of them, and it was one that I wrote, it was a machine that it's a big belt that you wear, and then there's a probe in your ass. And when you fart, so you're not embarrassed by the smell, by the sound.
Yeah.
Instead of your fart, you hear that speech. So we had a guy like there and he farts and you hear, I will not seek nor shall I accept. Anyway, so LBJ didn't run again, and in 68, and then that's when everything fell apart. Bobby ran, and
I apologize for the glitching. I don't know if it's my internet or what, but like I say, massive snowstorm, so it could be affecting it. But I'm going to end it there because they're getting into Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy, for people who don't know, was not a president, but he was running, and then if you know, you know. But I'll leave that for them to discuss. So we'll end it here. Like I say, this was a donated request. Just out of curiosity. 48-minute. So I only spent a half hour talking. But I do apologize. But what am I doing? Come on, what are you doing? There you go. Really? Really, bitch? Okay, so I'm going to end this here. There's a thanks button. You can donate to the channel. You don't have to. All donations are appreciated. Subscribe if you aren't. Give a thumbs up. That helps me tremendously. And if you're one of those people who gives thumbs down, I hope you get bird flu in your toes and they have to get, they get gangrene. And they're like, do you want them amputated? And then they amputate them, and then it's into the foot. And then they amputate that, and then it's up into the leg. And then just slowly, all you are left is just a rib cage, little nubs for arms and a head. And even your ears you have to get amputated. And your nose. And then they can't even do anything. The hole is remaining, and then your eyeballs have to get plucked out. And then your tongue. And you're just a thing now that people roll down the stairs. Hey, here's Grandpa. There he is. All right, so next time, don't do that. But until next time, you have a good day, have a good night.